Hello everybody, this is Pyra, and I wanted to go over a couple of updates from the Final Fantasy XIV Lodestone regarding the new updated official benchmark. So at the time of recording this video, this is actually the day that the benchmark released, so it is already out, the updated benchmark. However, I wasn't able to make this video sooner, and I thought we would go look over kind of what Yoshi P mentioned about the benchmark in the Lodestone update. And so without further ado, let us look at this final follow-up regarding the Dawn Trail official benchmark. So I'm gonna kind of TLDR some of this, especially because there is a lot of wording and because some of it is not relevant. The first one is just the updated benchmark release date that is happening now. At the time that you see this video, it is already out and already live. So they, as of May 31st, they were already in their debugging phase, and they were able to kind of like look and fix some of the issues. So they were initially trying to get this up sooner. However, they needed to postpone to get it out today just because they had some technical difficulties. Number 2, it says the review and reconfiguration of character creation's environmental parameters. So this is something that we had already kind of heard about before, just something that they wanted to work on, such as lighting, positioning of light sources, etc. They were just super outdated. So for the benchmark and going into Dawn Trail itself, this kind of sparked a change in the environmental parameters in the game, both for the benchmark and going forward in Dawn Trail, which is actually pretty huge, I think. So that was one of the biggest things, was going back and looking at some of these light sources and weather for the environmental maps. It says here too, all environments featured in the character creation menu have received significant updates, and Yoshi P says that he encourages you to check the details in the revised benchmark software. That being said, some areas have received major specification additions, which he will summarize below. And down here it shows, the first one is lighting in character creation's ethereal background. And it just reads, this background was originally designed with the concept of an area where aether courses freely, and this imagery was reinforced with the use of blue lighting. However, the blue color tint made it difficult to visualize what a character's skin tone would look like under normal lighting. For the revision, we considered eliminating the blue lighting to replicate a typical in-game environment. However, doing so would drastically change the impression of character creation compared to before and could be disorienting. So the blue light was left as is, and instead of just removing it altogether, what they did is they have now the ethereal background's time of day option, which has gone unused until now, and this was repurposed to add a new variant of the background with blue lighting disabled. So now you can go right in, you can turn the lighting on or off depending on if you like seeing the blue lighting or not, kind of thematically, or more if you want it to be more so just the background without that blue light. And they even show you some options here, like what it looks like with lighting 1 and lighting 2. That is huge. Like by itself, that is just a huge difference. Huge difference. And the lighting too actually kind of reminds me of what you see in the Lodestone. Like my character is right here, but that's kind of lighting 2, right? And then lighting 1, that's what we know of in character creator in the game live now. So just seeing that difference is huge, because this is what I would consider to be like the character in the wild, not this. So definitely makes a huge difference. I think that is a really good quality of life update for the benchmark and going into the game. And Yoshi P just says here that he encourages everyone to try both options to see how they affect your character's appearance. I imagine these nuances will add even more depth to the character creation process. The next thing that they noted upon here is the removal of vignette effect on the character creation menu. So before it looked like this with this kind of like dark border, and they just removed it. Up until now, it had that dark translucency. However, they removed it as it tended to influence the color perception of character features such as hair and skin. And so now it is just taken out of the character creation menu. It just seemed like it wasn't really serving the purpose, so there it goes. And then the number 3 topic that they had was addressing feedback and issues related to certain data and processes. And it says that they tried to address as many of the player feedback that they received as possible, but they wanted to summarize with a few examples. The first one being pupil highlights and lip gloss. The old highlights, which were drawn in using textures, have been removed and replaced with highlights that are rendered based on the lighting processes. This is the comparison, which I think is wild. But essentially, the highlights look more realistic to the world around it. But yeah, this is the before and after. That is a significant change. It almost scares me a little bit, the after. Like, I still think it looks really good. However, I feel like the after feels more like what they initially showed us a long time ago, which I didn't like. So I'm a little worried that we're kind of going into that plastic 3D doll territory. However, I think it's a lot of good things here, a lot of good changes. I'm actually in love with the reflection of the eyes. I think that worked really well. But some of the other changes I'm not convinced myself with, but I digress. The next thing is facial impressions, smile lines, and skin. So another comment that they received was just about the facial expressions around the character's eyes and around their mouth. They redrew high-resolution textures and normal maps to bring the results as close as they could to the state of patch 6.58, and this is one of the options. I can definitely see this feels way more lifelike. I do really enjoy this after more than the before. The before looks very kind of deadpan face, where this one feels softer. It feels more smooth. It feels softer. It feels more, I don't even know how to describe it, but I think like softer and smoother and more lifelike is in the after version. So that one I think is a really good update. One of the next things that they addressed was correction of low resolution sections of hair. So this by itself I think is like it's a lot of little things, but I think it stacks up pretty well. This hair is a very popular hair. I know I used to use it myself, and there are certain sections that were still pretty low res, so they went in and made it a lot better. They kind of upped the resolution, and it just looks just a little bit better, which I think is a nice little addition. One of the next things that they talked about was the self-shadowing optimizations and adjustments. So this point is regarding how the characters had somewhat modeled appearance due to shadows projected by their hair, so they made as many improvements as they could to ensure that self-shadowing would look good on every hairstyle, such as enhancing self-shadowing processes, adjusting normal maps, implementing special lighting, and determining which hair details should and shouldn't cast shadows. So that is actually pretty wild. This is the difference that they showed in the example. It is the Lalafell, kind of like these bangs right here, showing shadows and not showing shadows. This one only conflicts me slightly because this one only bothers me slightly, but not really much. Like, this is something that I feel like is a nice improvement. However, I don't think I was bothered by this myself, but I can understand maybe why some people do. Just for me, I don't think the hair shadows bother me, but yeah, either way, I think it is definitely a positive upgrade. And so the last little section of updates that they mentioned was regarding the environmental lighting adjustments. And Yoshi P said, when characters were backlit or in shadow, the softened shading made details appear rather flat. As such, we made overall adjustments to characters' environmental lighting to preserve a three-dimensional appearance even when a character wasn't being lit. We also made minor adjustments to the overall environment, such as fog. These adjustments, too, will be applied to both character creation and the game itself. And it gives us a couple of different before and after photos. The first one is this you're on the chocobo kind of scene. Definitely kind of like the male character earlier. It feels more lifelike, right? Like, we're getting more tones in the skin. We're getting more better rendered shading. You can see kind of more of like the readiness here in the cheeks. So I think that this was definitely another one of those small upgrades that kind of made a big difference. And then the next one is a close-up of the face when the character is looking at the map. And look at that difference. That is a huge difference. Quite honestly, that is a huge, and I'm actually going to move my chibi because I'm in the way. That is huge difference there. The skin looks more lifelike. Like your skin isn't one color, right? It has all these reds and yellows and blues, etc. And so like this feels that to me. And the shading feels more realistic. You can actually kind of see more of like the muscle on the neck and, you know, kind of like more of the textures in the ear, and like you can see the shadows of where the nose is. So this is huge. Like, I didn't think it was going to be something that much, but I think it is a really great, I think that's kind of like save the best for last. I think that is probably the best comparison that I've seen so far. And then of course at the very end from this letter from Yoshi P, it talks about the direction of character graphical update and regarding Fantasia. And so as Yoshi P mentioned above, not only have they worked to implement these upgrades into the new upgraded benchmark, but they have also integrated a lot of these, if not all of these, into the game itself going for Dawn Trail's launch, and they're going to continue to fine-tune Dawn Trail in the period leading up to the launch, but the bulk of the adjustments and fixes have been reflected in the benchmark. And I will read the second part of the letter here just because I think he sums it up better than I could. It says, on another note, the upcoming first round of graphical updates is also an upgrade of the Final Fantasy XIV rendering system overall. In particular, the processes related to shadows, lighting, and shaders have been significantly changed and enhanced from the previous rendering system. This means that details such as pupil, highlights, and lip gloss, which were previously rendered with hand-drawn textures to reduce processing overload, will be replaced with the correct method of rendering them. After the initial version of the benchmark was released, we closely examined the feedback we received and made further adjustments to replicate their previous appearances. Even so, we imagine the subtle differences in nuance will inevitably cause some characters to look ever so slightly different compared to before. Should that be the case, a file of Fantasia will be obtainable from a new quest that will be added with the release of patch 7.0, which will allow you to fine-tune your character's appearance. Additionally, as I mentioned in our recent letter from the producer live, a new feature will be added to files of Fantasia as of patch 7.0. After using a file of Fantasia, you will have 60 minutes of in-game playtime from the initial usage to re-edit your character's appearance as many times as you wish. And he says, I hope this new feature will be helpful as well. As always, we will remain open to feedback even after the updated benchmark update and Dawn Trail have been released, and will continue to address any issues or necessary adjustments in future patches. With only about a month left until Dawn Trail's official release, our final adjustments and debugging are being carried out at breakneck speed. Please look forward to early access on Friday, June 28th, as well as the official launch on Tuesday, July 2nd. Producer and director Naoki Yoshida. A lot to take in there. Pretty much, I would say, if you are interested in seeing these updates, go redo the benchmark. So this is, before we actually go to the benchmark, we're going to look at the Lodestone little update and then the benchmark website. This was posted today, and it says the official benchmark Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail on Windows has been updated to version 1.1, with adjustments and improvements made based on feedback from our Warriors of Light around the globe. So this letter, this Learn More, was the one that we just looked over, and then this is where you can download the benchmark. And this is the benchmark, the official benchmark site. So if you have yet to download the benchmark in general, or if you are looking to get the new updated benchmark, this is where you're gonna go. So I just had to redo some of my my cropping because this download button didn't show below, but right here you can see the download button on how to download the benchmark by itself, and of course it gives you features before use and using the benchmark. I do recommend, if you are downloading it and you need more information, to come to this site. You will have to anyways to download the benchmark, but Couple highlights that it shows. One is female Hrothgar, so you can make a female Hrothgar in the character creator if you so choose, or any character in the character creator if you'd like to look at how they look now with the graphical update, which is the next highlight here. So we will be seeing all of the graphical update things in the benchmark. High definition 4K support. So there will be 4K support in this. Definitely play around with your settings to make sure that it is looking as good as your computer can handle. 5.1 channel surround sound. So that is something that you can also experience with this benchmark. And then finally, multilingual support. So features, just like the game, Japanese, English, German, and French. Now, the TLDR of the version 1.1 updates are the character models for each race have been fixed or adjusted. Limb darkening and effect, which darkens all four corners of the screen, has been removed from the character creation tool. The lighting has been adjusted for all environments available in the character creation tool. An additional lighting option has been added to the default environment, ethereal background, in the character creation tool. Ambient lighting has been adjusted in the character creation tool and benchmark cutscenes. And to improve graphical quality, the texture filtering option has been removed from the graphics setting 4 tab in the settings menu. And of course, they give a warning. The software is not a trial version. You cannot play Final Fantasy XIV with the software. All the software is doing, if you are new to the benchmarks, all that this is doing is two things. The first thing, you can go into Character Creator to see what your character will look like, or to try the new race out. Or secondly, you can run the benchmark itself so that you can see the really cool kind of cutscenes and imagery that they have, and as well, it tests your PC's performance. So that is kind of like the main purpose of the benchmark. Of course, like the flashy and graphical things are really cool, but it is there to test the performance on your computer and give you a score based on that. So down here, this is kind of the last things. I'm not going to go over these. These, if you need them, definitely look over them. But essentially, they're just going to show you how to download and run the software, different, things about the software licensing agreement, and kind of a very in-depth look at what every little thing means. And then if you scroll all the way down to the very bottom, you can see what the score ranking is. So it goes from insufficient performance all the way to extremely high performance, and everything between. So whatever score you get, if you'd like, you can come right down to this and it will explain to you what your score means. This is really good. If you haven't already, I stress, if your PC is not at the performance that you would like it to be, then that is the time to look for new hardware or whatever you need for your computer. But I know myself, I like being in the green range. I'm at very high performance. I want to be nothing less than that, but that's a me preference thing. So this is kind of like a mix of preference and if you're able to even run the game to begin with. So that is it for my updates about the benchmark. I'm kind of closing out on how the benchmark looks for me right now in the character creator menu, the character creation menu. This is where I'm going to end the video here. I'm going to do kind of my own deep dive at the character updates and kind of my thoughts about my character and the updates in general in another video. But as far as the informational video about the benchmark, that is it for me here. Thank you so much for watching. If you like more Final Fantasy XIV news and updates, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. It does a lot for me and my channel. And if you haven't seen me before, I also stream on Twitch and YouTube almost every single day, between 5 to 6 days a week, Final Fantasy XIV content, everything from news and updates and casual content all the way through Savage and Ultimate rating. And thank you so much. We will see you in game. Bye.